So, you just watched episode 9 of Mushoku Tensei Season 2, and you're probably thinking to yourself, Sylphie's kind of unhinged. Stop. Wait. Sylphie stands, don't smash the dislike button yet. Hear me out. Throughout my time reading Mushoku Tensei, I've had an interesting time trying to figure out Sylphie's character, which I found to be odd because after watching Season 1 of the anime, she seemed pretty easy to get. A girl who was bullied in her village, saved by Rudius, gaining a friend, then being left behind, only to gain strength through independence. It seemed simple enough. But then I started reading the novel series. And everything got a lot more interesting. It's something that I've honestly discussed a lot while doing my novel analysis, much to the dislike of Sylphie stans. They don't like you questioning Sylphie. She's perfect. Stop saying anything that could be slightly implied negative. But that never stops me from actually analyzing these characters because I think Refugien does everything for a purpose. It's something you discover very quickly while reading the series. But now that anime fans have finally caught up to pretty much the point in which I started really questioning her as a character a lot, and plus, yes, episode 9 having her very violent outburst against Nanahoshi, it got me thinking about it again. This sense that Sylphie is the type to really bottle up her emotions until she explodes. Anime-only fans won't know this, but this is actually the second time that Sylphie has nearly killed somebody over a misunderstanding. Even in both situations, in her mind, she's actually doing something right. Let's take a jump back to Buena Village, and let me explain my logic here. In the early story, Sylphie is bullied in her home village because of her hair color, green. Just like the demons and the superds that the children hear stories about all the time. Rudius, having a dislike for bullying, takes action and defends her. It's through this act of kindness, Rudius' friendship, and learning magic that Sylphie gains not only purpose, but joy in her life. The cowering and scared girl now has something to strive for. However, when she gains this, Rudius' father notices a darker aspect of it. In a conversation with Sylphie's father, Laws notes how much Sylphie adores Rudius, and figures one day they'll get hitched. Which yes, that's fine for Paul, getting a cute daughter added to the family, but due to Rudius' comments about getting a job and paying for Sylphie's tuition, made him concerned. It reads, right now, the girl is basically putty in his hands. If the two of them continue to grow up together like this, Sylphie is going to be permanently dependent on Rudius, even as an adult. I've seen a few cases of this back when I was still nobility. I'd seen human beings who were nothing more than puppets, totally controlled by their parents. That's not so bad when the guy who's pulling the strings is still around, I guess. As long as Rudius kept loving Sylphie, she'd probably be just fine. But, unfortunately, the kid had a bit of his dad in him as well. He was a born womanizer, in other words. There was a chance that he might end up running off with every other girl who caught his eye. A chance? Nah. The boy was my son. He was definitely going to mess around. And when the dust settled, he might not end up choosing Sylphie. She'd never recover from this blow. Never. My son might very well end up entirely ruining the sweet little girl's life. I couldn't. So, Paul chose to separate them. In his letter to Rudius, he wrote, Sylphie's never going to learn how to stand on her own 2 feet if you keep hanging around the village. And you were growing increasingly reliant on her as well. That's why I made the call to separate the two of you. Which, oddly enough, Rudius fully agrees with. Like, he sees his father's point. Rudius thought, when I really thought about it, Paul had a point. At the rate things were going, Sylphie might end up turning into one of those childhood friend characters from a particular visual novel. You know, the kind that sticks around the protagonist constantly, revolving around him like a satellite, and never develops a personality of their own. She would never have the ability to grow, and he understood that. See, Sylphie grows so connected to Rudius that it almost becomes a tunnel vision. It's a scary bit of dependency. Things surrounding her get a bit more blurry when conflict arises. In the way seen when she nearly kills Paul. Yes, for those that don't know, anime skipped it. After Paul duels Rudius and knocks him out to send him off to train Edis, it reads, I quickly proceeded to tie up my son. The carriage had arrived by the time I finished. So I picked him up and prepared to toss him into it. Of course, Laws picked that time to show up with Sylphie in tow. She screamed out his name. Seeing her playmate bound hand and foot, the girl immediately fired off an intermediate tier offensive spell at me without so much as an incantation. I warded off the spell easily enough, but on top of the silent casting, the attack power and speed were both impressive. She could have killed a normal person. Damn it, Rudius. Don't go teaching her that crap. After handing Ghislaine my letter, I unceremoniously dumped Rudius into the carriage and let the coachman know that he was good to go. Glancing over, I saw Laws crouched next to Sylphie, speaking to her firmly but quietly. Yeah, that's the way. It's a parent's job to teach a kid what's what. Laws had allowed Rudius to take over many of his duties, but now he'd get a chance to reclaim his rightful role. Exhaling quietly, I watched the little family conference from a distance. After a moment, the wind carried Sylphie's voice over to me. No, I'll get strong enough to help Rudy. That girl really adores you, son of mine. Now. Hold your comments. I fully acknowledge that Sylphie right here is only 6 years old. She's still very immature, and rationalizing a situation like this would be difficult. It's why you don't put a lethal weapon into a child's hands. But it shows that logic that is missed when she needs it the most. That unhinged nature that, if Paul wasn't a skilled swordsman, Rudius would be having a funeral for his father before his adventure even took off. Yes, there's also the chance that she didn't know that spell could kill Paul or a person. But stick with me here, because this is where things get extremely interesting, and something that has stuck with me during the Fitz saga. Sylphie later gains independence. The girl trains and trains, fights off bullies before they can put her under their boot again, only to be caught up in the displacement incident. She unknowingly saves Princess Ariel, and is taken under her wing in order to avoid being locked up or being sold off into forced servitude. But this is not a charity, of course. Instead, Ariel uses Sylphie's skills in order to protect her through power struggles, and thus, Silent Fitz comes into being. Now this is where things, for me, start to get very, very interesting. This is where Sylphie, despite fears of what may have happened to her hometown, her family, becomes a mysterious guard to protect the princess. No one knows his origins. He's skilled in magic, casts magic swiftly without incantations, and kills many assassins that come after Ariel at the age of 10. She's still a child at this point. But not only that, there's an interesting aspect of Fitz that sort of compounds my curiosity of her as a character. The mystery surrounding Fitz is a lack of expression, almost a cold nature. In order to hide Fitz's gender and personality, Sylphie suppresses her emotions, doesn't talk, and hides her expression. Hence, the silent aspect. Now, yes, technically that's also for the whole silent casting thing, but it's the same thing. Which for me has been sort of an ongoing question about how that can affect someone's personality. Never being able to vocalize yourself in public, or outwardly express your emotions. Shoot, we're seeing that with Rudius right now coming back into her life, as she struggles with even talking to him. Now, only recently in episode 9, anime fans are getting a sense that Sylphie hasn't told Rudius who she is, because she fears him not remembering her. And Ariel has given her the okay to use the persona of Fitz as she pleases, essentially allowing her to keep up the charade as she feels more comfortable with it, despite them wanting her to reveal that she is the girl that she once was. It creates a sort of tragedy of keeping someone at a distance in fear of not being able to close that gap. But at the same time, fuels my theory that this is all sort of a bottling up of one's emotions, and the dangers that that might cause. Enter Nanahoshi, the second near death. Granted again, the second near misunderstanding death. Someone Sylphie discovered knowing information about summoning, and someone she sought out to help Rudius with his research. Now, let's be perfectly clear here. Sylphie doesn't know how the conversation with Nanahoshi went. She's left in the dark due to Nanahoshi and Rudius speaking in Japanese. But when she's finally brought into the conversation again, when they start actually talking human tongue, she's presented with the cause of her pain over the last 6 years, and explodes. I find her explosion a mixture of a few things here. She doesn't know the context of the conversation, nor Nanahoshi's situation. Sylphie has killed before, and so she doesn't have the blocks that normal people have against killing somebody. Once again, that bottled up emotion that never gets to be let out. Still, I think there's something to be said here when somebody is suddenly presented by the cause of their suffering. In the heat of that moment, she believes Nanahoshi caused the displacement incident. The incident that leveled her home. The incident that caused the death of her parents. The incident that tore everyone apart and sent her friend across the world. But, whereas most people pause and go, wait, explain yourself. She chose to kill. No doubt, no question here, she would have killed Nanahoshi. Nanahoshi has no magic, no power, no protection. She's just a normal earthling. Without the ring she puts on, she would be dead. And that, again, is where Sylphie sort of scares me as a character. It's fine because it worked out, but if you think about it, without this happening, I mean, even Nanahoshi herself, she was about to explain things, put this on, because I could get killed. Sure enough, she would have been killed. And that's what scares me. Sylphie was thrown into dependency in an early point in her life, thrown into the bloody royal struggle, taken many lives, and ultimately molded herself to bottle up her feelings in order to protect her friend, Ariel. Though you can say that her actions are always fueled by the desire to protect her loved ones, I don't think all these moments in her life shaped her in a way that could be seen as healthy. But that's not a negative thing. That's Refugin for you. The author of this series doesn't write characters to be the sum of what they are at face value. The childhood friend character from a particular visual novel that they kind of initially presented her as will once again be a character study that breaks your typical molds. Just like Eris, a tsundere character from a particular visual novel that breaks her soon and becomes the dere for the protagonist. This is how this character writes. And despite the fact that I struggle to understand Sylphie, and I like to examine that, which I think is extremely fun and much to the issue to Sylphie stands, it's all for the point that I'm waiting for Refugin to go, this is what it's all about. And I go, it works. I love it. And yes, Sylphie will eventually get to that point. But until then, yes, Sylphie's a bit unhinged. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as always. Make sure to go down below if you like this video and hit that like button because, as per usual, when I talk about Sylphie, people get angry and they hit dislike immediately. But probably by the thumbnail alone, I'll probably put unhinged and a picture of Sylphie. But I hope you guys enjoy this video as always. I love talking and deep diving about these characters. And like I said, this is the point in which I start to get that question mark about Sylphie. And when I was reading the novels, and so I want to talk about it here since all the anime onlys are now getting to this point, and I think it's a lot of fun to discuss. Plus, I know there's a lot of question marks around, gosh, why did Sylphie attack Nanahoshi? Sometimes people miss that context there, and I didn't really get into it too deep when I was doing my actual episode analysis, but here it is right here. But additionally, if you like this content and you want to support more, I have a Patreon link, tips link, super thanks, membership button down below. Greatly appreciate what it does. Y'all take care.